Imagine waking up on a totally normal Monday morning.
Hmm.
You eat your breakfast, grab your bag, walk right into your homeroom class, and suddenly you realize something is profoundly wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Because every single male you know, your classmates, the teachers, even the grumpy old school janitor, has inexplicably transformed into a little girl.
Right, which honestly sounds like the setup for a really weird, highly memeable internet joke, you know? It's like one of the most bizarre premises you could possibly use to start a story.
It really does sound like a gag. But what looks like a quirky slapstick high school comedy
Hmm.
is actually, well, it's a Trojan horse.
Really?
Today's deep dive is into the 24-episode narrative saga of Marisone. And we're going to look at how this story takes that initial absurd shock value and uses it to launch into one of the most intense, mind-bending explorations of reality, free will, and identity that we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, and to get some context, we are following a protagonist named Marisone, and she happens to be the only person on Earth who didn't transform during this whole
Which
phenomenon.
is wild in itself.
Exactly. So the world jokingly dubs this the global lowly crisis,
Hmm.
right? But as Marissa and her newly transformed friends start trying to uncover the actual cause, they stumble onto this ancient cosmic pact. It's known as the Marisone contract.
And, tracing Maurice's journey from a totally confused teenager dealing with classmates who are suddenly swimming in these oversized uniforms, all the way to becoming the literal arbiter of existence is our mission today.
It's quite the escalation.
It really is. We're looking at a story that asks incredibly heavy questions about the burden of having infinite choices and that eternal tension that we all feel between wanting stagnant, predictable order and craving chaotic, uninhibited freedom.
Yeah, and you might not be dealing with ancient magical contracts in your own life, obviously, but that core conflict is something you navigate every single day.
Right.
We constantly weigh the safety of the known against the terrifying potential of the unknown. So to understand how reality gets completely rewritten in this universe, we have to first look at the mechanics of this initial crisis.
Okay, wait, let's unpack the crisis itself first, because the shock value in those early episodes is fantastic.
Yeah.
But there has to be a mechanism behind it. I mean, Marisa walks into school and sees Takumi, who is normally the traditionally tall, cool guy of the class, as this blushing, nervous, tiny girl.
Oh, in Rio.
Right, Rio, the loudmouth, is just bouncing off the desks,
Uh-huh.
and Kai, the stoic senior, is calmly sipping a juice box in the corner in this massive uniform.
Yeah.
How does the narrative actually justify this happening?
Well, the justification is entirely built around this concept of cosmic equilibrium. So the group tracks the source of the anomaly to an overgrown, abandoned shrine on the edge of town.
Okay.
And there they meet a ghost-like entity named Shiori. She basically serves as the systems administrator, if you want to think of it like that.
Say a cosmic IT person.
Exactly. And Shiori explains that the Marisone contract wasn't a curse at all. It was an automated defense mechanism. Yeah. The world had tipped too far out of balance in some undefined cosmic sense, and the transformation was a hard reset triggered to strip away existing societal power dynamics. It forced everyone into a state of extreme vulnerability just to, preserve balance.
So it's basically the universe throwing a massive timeout.
Pretty much.
And to fix it, Shiori sends them on a scavenger hunt for these 3 seals of Marisone, which are hidden where the old world and the new world collide.
Right, they have to go through all these trials.
Yeah, fighting shadow entities in school basements, playing magical claw machines in abandoned arcades, and winning dance battles and trivia.
Yeah.
But the actual turning point is what happens when Marisa finally gets all 3 seals, right?
Yeah, that's where everything changes.
She stands in the inner sanctum of the shrine, holding them, and the universe basically offers her a glowing undo button.
Right. The system offers her a very strict binary choice. Revert the world back to normal, or keep everyone transformed forever to lock in this new, supposedly perfectly balanced state.
See, if I were handed a magical undo button for a global crisis, I'd press it without a second thought. Just put things back the way they were before Monday.
Yeah, most people would.
But Marisa rejects the binary altogether. She holds the artifact and fundamentally rewrites the rules of the contract. Her new rule is, quote, change yourself anytime, no cost, no limits.
She essentially installs an open-ended options menu for a physical reality.
Which raises a massive question. Does giving a population infinite shape-shifting choices actually solve the societal crisis? Or does it just create a brand new, highly chaotic psychological problem? Like, you can be anything, anytime. How do you hold on to who you actually are?
It's a great question, and the narrative explores that immediate fallout brilliantly. Because society actually adapts to the physical mechanics of this bizarre new freedom remarkably fast.
Wait, really? How quickly are we talking?
Like within days. Public transport systems start adding booster seats. Adult corporate executives casually shrink down to little girl forms just to run errands without being recognized or to navigate crowded streets more easily, and then they just switch back for their board meetings.
That is hilarious.
Yeah,
And restaurants roll out dynamic mini meals, right?
exactly. People treat it like a fashion trend. They're using hashtags online, swapping forms for pure convenience. It reveals how much of what we consider normal is just a flexible social construct. Society molds itself to whatever the current physical reality allows.
But there has to be a hidden cost to that, right?
Oh, definitely. By leaving the contract open-ended, Marisa removes the boundaries that defined her world's place in the broader cosmic order. She inadvertently paints a massive target on her dimension.
Because, I mean, you can't just completely rewrite the fundamental rules of reality without tripping an alarm somewhere. When you declare absolute unrestricted freedom, you naturally attract the attention of forces that demand absolute restrictive order.
Right, every action has a cosmic reaction.
Mhm.
And we see that pushback materialize through a new faction called the Resetters.
The masked guys.
Yeah. But before they even strike, Marisa gets a warning from Arya, who is a transfer student whose family actually guards the ancient Marisone archives.
Oh, right, the archives.
Arya explains that the contract was always a delicate balancing scale. It was never meant to be a blank check for infinite variables.
And the local reality literally starts breaking down under the weight of those infinite variables, right? Like street lamps flicker, time starts looping in small pockets. That's when the resetters arrive.
Yeah, and they are terrifying.
They are. They're these masked figures who look at endless cycles and infinite choices, not as freedom, but as a literal disease.
Their whole philosophy is rooted in the idea that a system with too many variables will inevitably collapse into suffering. To them, the only pure state of balance is zero, just nothingness.
So how do they try to enforce that?
To achieve the zero state, they begin planting these ancient, heavy anchors at specific convergence points, like a train station, an abandoned theater, a library, and they do this to literally erase the world and return it to a blank slate.
So the resetters are essentially cosmic IT administrators.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
They're looking at Maurice's world like it's a glitchy, infected operating system that's just using up way too much RAM, and they're trying to force a factory wipe of the hard drive.
Exactly. To them, choice is the virus. So the squad has to fight through these severe temporal anomalies to stop the process. At the train station, the clock tower is literally spinning backward, physically pulling the surrounding architecture into a vortex of non-existence.
Wow.
Yeah, they have to physically shatter the anchors to stop the deletion.
Honestly, looking at the sheer exhaustion the characters face dealing with these glitches, I catch myself almost sympathizing with the resetters a little bit.
I mean, it makes sense.
Living in an endlessly shifting, rule-free reality where the physical laws change based on people's whims, that sounds inherently unstable and completely exhausting to live in.
It does, and it connects to a deeply rooted philosophical struggle, right? The tension between authoritarian order and democratic chaos. The resetters crave the peace of a blank slate. Authoritarian order is appealing because it is quiet, it's predictable.
But Maurice's arguing against that.
Right. When she breaches the resetters' void sanctuary, which is this colossal structure of spiraling stone suspended in absolute nothingness, she touches their core device and makes her second rewrite. She declares, balance through freedom, choice without end.
So she's defining balance not as a perfectly still pendulum hanging dead in the center, but as the constant, messy swinging back and forth.
Exactly. She is choosing the exhausting work of freedom over the easy peace of non-existence, and she reinforces this later at the Marisone Festival.
Right when that cloaked figure attacks.
Yeah, they try to open the origin gate at an abandoned observatory to erase all cycles. And Marisa seals it by demanding, endless cycles, endless choice, no resets.
But making that demand triggers an entirely new set of consequences, doesn't it?
It really does.
Because if you establish a reality that defends infinite paths and absolutely refuses to let any cycle end, you eventually have to deal with the ghosts of the paths that were already abandoned.
You can't escape the past.
Right. By cementing her world's right to exist indefinitely, Marisa accidentally wakes up the echoes of erased timelines.
And that's when we are introduced to the Council of Forgotten Cycles. These are ancient, observing entities residing in a chamber that's just dominated by a massive hourglass.
Creepy.
Very. They pull Maurice's reality into a void to put it on trial. They demand to know why this chaotic, rewritten world deserves to survive when countless other, more orderly worlds were deleted.
And the trials they face aren't just physical battles, right? They're deep psychological tests. Like, there's a trial reflection where they're trapped in a hall of mirrors and have to physically fight their own deepest insecurities and the what-ifs of their own lives.
Yeah, it's brutal. But proving their worth in those trials has an unintended side effect. Their survival acts as a cosmic beacon.
A beacon for who?
For what the story calls cycle invaders. We meet characters like Senna, a white-haired girl who hails from a timeline that the Council previously deleted. Senna explains that these forgotten, erased worlds are leaking into Maurice's reality.
And they aren't coming peacefully. These shadow armies are attacking the town, literally draining the transformation energy from the citizens just to maintain their own fragile existence. They're trying to overwrite Maurice's reality to save themselves.
So Marisa is faced with a profound moral dilemma here. The system dictates she should close the breach and just let those invading timelines dissolve back into nothingness to protect her own world.
But true to form, she absolutely refuses the system's options. Instead of destroying the invaders, she uses the contract to merge all the forgotten cycles into one massive, shared reality.
Which is a noble idea, but merging entirely disparate realities with conflicting histories and physical laws causes immediate and massive friction.
I mean, of course it does. It sounds like taking 5 incredibly active group chats, all with their own inside jokes, different rules, and conflicting personalities, and forcing them into one massive thread. Of course the cultures are going to clash. You're going to have people fighting over the vibes of reality itself.
Oh, absolutely. And the physical manifestation of that friction is striking. Memories heavily overlap, causing individuals to experience histories they didn't even live.
That sounds terrifying.
It is. The architecture continuously glitches, blending neon cityscapes from one cycle with ancient, crumbling ruins from another, and this tension gives rise to the cycle breakers.
Led by Vera.
Right. Vera is a warrior who leads this rebel faction. They attempt to tear this newly merged world apart at its core just to reclaim their isolated individual realities.
Which makes me wonder, was Marisa naive to think she could just force all these erased, traumatized worlds to coexist? She effectively erased their unique borders without asking anyone.
It's a valid criticism, and it brings up a crucial point about integration, both on a societal level and a personal one. Vera's desire to separate the worlds makes sense, because integration is painful. Losing your unique boundaries to a collective whole feels like a loss of identity.
Yeah, nobody wants to lose themselves.
But when Marisa ultimately defeats Vera at the cycle core, she permanently fuses the realities. The underlying philosophy here is that you cannot just delete the ugly, painful, or failed parts of the past to create a pristine present.
Think about how we handle our own personal histories. You know, the careers we abandoned, the relationships that failed, the versions of ourselves we cringe at. We try to compartmentalize them or pretend they didn't happen. We try to erase our own cycles. But Marisa forces her world to integrate its entire history.
Exactly. It's chaotic, and identities overlap heavily, but for the first time, existence is whole. The system is finally inclusive.
Which feels like a triumphant ending, honestly. But the universe has one final boss waiting. Marisa defeated the rigid rule makers. She made peace with the ghosts of the past and integrated them. The only concept left to confront is the very idea of nothingness itself, the void that existed before choices even mattered.
And this final threat doesn't announce itself with an army. The anomalies simply become absolute. People, buildings, entire city blocks don't just glitch. They quietly vanish into sheer white voids.
They track this phenomenon to a mirror world made entirely of discarded cycle fragments, right? And it's a deeply unsettling environment. The sky is completely static. There's no wind, no sound, no movement. And in the center of it all is Iria.
Iria is a girl with striking gold eyes who represents the cycle that was erased before the first cycle ever began.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she is the literal embodiment of the pre-cycle world, a state of absolute unbothered stillness.
And she delivers a chilling ultimatum to Marisa, doesn't she? Surrender the Marisone contract and allow reality to revert to this state of absolute stillness. No change, no choices, no chaos, no pain.
Right.
And if Marisa refuses, Iria will use anti-reality to collapse existence into oblivion.
To really understand the thread, we have to look at how anti-reality functions in this universe. It
Yeah.
isn't a fiery explosion. Anti-reality is a numbing wave that simply unknits matter. It removes the energy that holds atoms and ideas together.
Looking at Iria and the environment she created, she is the literal embodiment of giving up. She represents that deep, creeping human urge we all experience when we're overwhelmed. When the world is just too complicated, too exhausting, and demands too many choices, a part of us just wants to retreat into numb, painless nothingness. Just close our eyes and stop trying.
It's the ultimate temptation of apathy. Because a static world is incredibly safe. Nothing ever breaks and no one ever gets hurt.
But no one ever grows either.
Exactly. The climax occurs during a reality-bending battle over the mirror world's clock tower. Iria uses waves of anti-reality to silently erase matter, while Marisa uses the blazing white light of the Marisone compass to violently knit it back together, forcing existence to hold its shape.
It's a clash between the fundamental states of being.
Yeah.
And Marisa doesn't win by just overpowering Iria with a bigger energy beam. The compass gives her a final, definitive choice. And all cycles forever, break the system entirely, or create something new.
And she chooses the third option.
Right. She declares a living cycle, endless freedom through constant change.
She defeats Iria by demonstrating the beauty and necessity of evolution. Iria dissolves into golden particles, finally understanding that while a static world might be safe from pain, it is fundamentally dead.
Yeah.
A living cycle requires constant effort, it requires friction and adaptation, but it's the only environment where true freedom can actually exist.
And the moment she makes that declaration, the mirror world shatters and merges with their reality. The town itself officially transforms into the shrine of endless Marisone. It becomes a fluid, dynamic space where all beings from all times, all cycles, and all forgotten histories can coexist peacefully, shifting forms and identities at will.
It's a stunning visual resolution that perfectly mirrors the thematic journey. It reminds you that freedom isn't a passive state you achieve and then sit back to enjoy. It is an active, daily choice to embrace the messy unknown.
The story starts by dropping us into a quirky, magical comedy where teenagers are trying to figure out why they've suddenly changed forms, and it meticulously scales up to deliver a sprawling cosmic treatise on the way to free will, the integration of our past selves, and the sheer courage it takes to choose an evolving life over the safety of static perfection.
It is a masterful escalation of a single core theme.
It really is. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a direct challenge. Imagine you are holding the glowing Marisone compass in your hands right now. You have the power to rewrite the fundamental rules of your own life and reality. Would you choose perfect, peaceful order where nothing ever goes wrong, but nothing ever changes? Or would you choose the chaotic, endless freedom of constant change? What does your living cycle look like? Think about that the next time you catch yourself wishing that things would just go back to normal.